Belachara offers seniors beautiful apartment living. It's a special, secure place to belong, providing choice, freedom and professional care. Each spacious apartment comes with an ensuite, veranda, security and on-call nurses. Entertain your guests in the elegantly appointed shared spaces. Our vibrant activities program will keep your mind and body active. Belachara welcomes new residents. Call us today on 5202 5300 for a personal tour.
Good evening, Graham Rawlins with News Geelong this Friday, January 24, 2013. The great Scottish poet Robbie Burns' National Day across the world. Australia Day will draw thousands of people to Geelong and surrounds over the long weekend, including a top music and blues festival at Odyssey Tavern on the Surf Coast Highway. The phone number 1800 333 000 is very well known because it's the important phone number for Crime Stoppers, which in conjunction with Victoria Police, the Country Fire Authority and the SES has launched a major campaign to report the lowlights in our society called arsonists. From the world of sport, Ian Nicholls will keep us up to date and posted on all that is happening in the world of Geelong sport, while Weatherwise will give you the expected forecast for Geelong and the Surf Coast over the next 6 days. The mid-year financial funding cuts by the Victorian State Government has severely affected Barwon Health and its delivery of essential services. Local South Barwon member Andrew Katos has his own views on the funding cuts, as Ian Nicholls reports.
Today, News Geelong is at the office of Andrew Katos, the state member for South Barwon. And there's no doubt the coalition has a lot on its mind this year. And federal funding for the health system is probably top of the agenda. We're talking with Andrew Katos about the funding cuts that will affect Barwon Health right here in Geelong. You're back behind the desk and ready for I would think, a tough year ahead.
This will be a very big year, 2013. I'm looking forward to it. There's going to be a lot of interesting goings on this year, particularly around the redistribution of the state seats. So that'll all come to fruition this year, and we'll know where the new boundaries are for each state seat. So that will be an interesting process.
It will indeed, and things are pretty tight in the electoral front if we believe the polls. But more importantly, right now, there's a lot of controversy about federal funding for the health system. Canberra is ripping, as they say, millions of dollars out of the system, and that is coming back to Geelong eventually, with Barwon Health having to receive less funding by the month.
Well, you're right, and these federal cuts will start to bite now. There's no question that they're a federal cut. This year alone, there's $107 million being taken out of Victoria's health budget. Now, the real insidious thing about this is that budget's been set. Hospitals have already allocated the funding. They've already employed people on the basis of that. And now, from November last year till June of this year, each month there will be $15 million less coming from the Commonwealth to the Victorian government for health funding. Now that's a $4.9 million impact on Barwon Health. Some of the hospitals in Melbourne are even harder hit. Southern Health, which is one of the biggest hospitals, I believe is one of the biggest providers in Melbourne, is upwards of around $13 million cut. Now, we've already seen the impact of that with the closure of beds at Barwon Health, and these cuts will impact on services, as we're seeing.
Well, now, they say, the federal government is saying there's been a population exodus out of this part of the world, and that just doesn't make sense, and that's one of their main reason for cutting funding and servicing. Now, That's simply not true, is it?
Oh, excuse I must apologise for laughing when you said that. This is a very serious topic, but that is what this is. It's laughable to suggest that Victoria's population in 2011 fell by 11,000 people. Now, the Commonwealth Government's own statistician, the ABS, in June of last year, put the figures out. Victoria's population grew by 75,400 people. Now, anyone who lives in this Geelong and the Surf Coast region and the Bellarine would have to have their head in the sand or be in some alternate universe to think that our population has fallen. We can all see our population has increased. I know here in the electorate of South Barwon, since I was elected, there's been over 2,000 voters come into the electorate, let alone let alone children or people who are from overseas who can't vote. So to turn around and say our population has fallen, so hence we're going to reallocate your health funding on that basis is absolutely absurd.
Well, it is, and we can see the growth that's happening right here, not only in the electorate of South Melbourne, the Geelong region in general. Now, the mayor, the publicly elected mayor of Geelong, Keith Fagg, has weighed into this debate a little bit by saying that you could get together. He wants the MPs on both sides to get together. This is a big ask, given that that's almost impossible.
Well, it's not almost impossible, but the fact remains that it's a federal cut. And no matter what spin the feds want to put on it, that is the problem. I'm assuming these cuts were in an attempt to prop up a budget surplus, which they've now conceded will not happen. So that's where this is coming from. And if these were state cuts, then surely all the relevant unions would be jumping up and down. And that's one thing that's been that the public must see, that the unions on this matter have been silent. Now that shows to me that it is a federal cut, and obviously the unions don't want to upset their federal comrades in Canberra.
Well, yes, you're talking about the cuts with Melbourne Health, almost $4.9 million, and you would think that somebody would be standing up and jumping up and down, as you said, on this particular side of the fence, the unions involved in the health system.
Yeah, that's correct. If it was a state cut, as the federal government is asserting, then surely the relevant unions would be taking the state government to task. They would be out there campaigning against us actively. Now, they've been very quiet on this issue. Now, that shows to me, and probably should show to most people, the average person, that this is a federal cut.
Well, now, what can be done if we're trying to look ahead now to get both sides of politics to the table? What's the next move, do you think?
Well, it's quite simple. First and foremost, this funding needs to be reinstated. It's as simple as that, because this is the start of the cuts. It's $475 million over 4 years, which is the cut, and again based on these very rubbery, absurd population figures. So the state can try and do its bit. I know Minister Davis's there was a program in place to try and already in place to try and reduce elective surgeries, and there was a pool which all hospitals had a competitive bid on. That was around 35 million, and that's been increased by another 9 million, so that hospitals around the state can put in competitive bids for more elective surgery. But that's 9 million. We're talking about 107 million. So the state has put in a little bit, but you know, the state can't go it alone on this. And the other side to the coin is too, this isn't just Victoria that's been cut. This is across the whole of Australia. Every state around the nation is encountering this. So it's not simply a cut to Victoria's health system by the feds. This is going on right around the country.
At the office of the state member for South Barwon, this is Ian Nicholls for News Geelong.
Thank you, Ian. Friday evening, News Geelong, as we go to a break and return with more news after this.